Hello, my name is Kathy, and I've been asked to reflect on Luke chapter 23, verse 43. This is part of Reflections in Holy Week, where we're thinking about words Jesus spoke at the cross. Yesterday, Jean spoke about, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And my verse is, I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in paradise. But I want just to read the verses before for a bit of context, so I'm starting at verse 38. There was written a notice above him which read, This is the King of the Jews. One of the criminals who hung there heard insults at him. Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us. But the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus answered, I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in paradise. On reading these words from the cross, I straight away got to thinking of paradise. I guess especially in lockdown, many of us let our minds wander to what would be paradise at the moment. But for me, paradise is always Paradise Woods, as it's known in our family. It's a particular spot along the River Brock in Lancashire. It's full of many memories and is one of the most beautiful places I know in bluebell season. The concept of paradise in the Bible, I found, was all a bit complicated, and I don't really want to get into all of that stuff. But one consistent concept was the idea of it being a beautiful garden, and that the word is interchangeable with heaven. So I tend to think of heaven and paradise in this sense, as a place where God is for eternity, and it's going to be beautiful. It's a place of meeting with Jesus. And it's this idea of meeting with Jesus that I want to think about now. So, when our two thieves meet with Jesus in this passage, it is far from beautiful. I got to thinking about when they had perhaps first met with Jesus. Was it on the way to the cross and their inevitable death? Had they seen him stumbling and bleeding and suffering? Had they heard him mocked, insulted and abused? Had they seen and heard the crowd shouting and baying for blood? I think they probably had. Their journey with Jesus began as they met with him on the way up the hill called the Skull. I then began to wonder about the stage when each of the thieves had to make a decision, come to a conclusion about Jesus. I wondered about the stage at which the Holy Spirit had begun to prompt them about Jesus and reveal more about who Jesus was to them both. Was it as they journeyed with Jesus up the hill, as they walked and stumbled with him, as their own suffering was reaching its climax, as they looked back over their life as they approached death, as they contemplated perhaps beyond death? I wondered if the Holy Spirit began to reveal to them, as they met with Jesus on that journey, who Jesus was, so that by the time they reached the cross and were hanging there, they both made their response to Jesus, having met with him on the journey. And back to the passage, there was written a notice above him which read, This is the King of the Jews. One of the criminals who hung there hurled insults at him. Aren't you the Christ? Save yourself and us. That was one response. But the other criminal rebuked him. Don't you fear God, he said, since you are under the same sentence. We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve. But this man has done nothing wrong. Then he said to Jesus, Remember me when you come into your kingdom. A second response. Jesus answered him, I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in paradise. So then I got to thinking about our journey with Jesus, the time when we meet with him. When we meet with Jesus on our journey, how do we respond to the prompts of the Holy Spirit that reveal more of Jesus to us? Even when the walk is really tough, painful and ugly and not very beautiful or paradise-like, do we recognise that Jesus is still with us and we can meet with him? The guy on the cross, in his worst state, turned to Jesus and said, "We are punished justly, for we are getting what our deeds deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong. Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus responded, "I tell you the truth, today you will be with me in paradise." It seems to me that at that moment, for that man, despite the ugliness of the situation, something beautiful began to happen, a process of grace, mercy, faith and forgiveness. In that moment, the suffering thief had faith and put his hope in Jesus. The work of the Holy Spirit in revealing Jesus to him was complete. This meeting with Jesus was brief but profound. It came to an end at the cross, where his eternal meeting with Jesus in paradise was only a breath or two away. Unlike the thief, we have the opportunity to meet with Jesus each day, to be in his presence and experience a part of paradise before death. Like the thief, we can meet with God when it's ugly or beautiful in our lives, but especially we need to come when it's ugly. Like the thief, we can experience paradise, meeting with God, through prayer, worship, reading the Bible, acts of service, through seeking forgiveness. Today, like the thief, we can be with God in a bit of paradise when we meet with him and step into his presence.